basically have,
That's recorded.
so we have a complete receiver, a dedicated receiver, we have a dedicated transmitter, and together we have a controller. The thing about the repeater, it's constantly receiving and transmitting at the same time, which is a form of duplex. I guess I'll regress a little bit. When you hear the word duplex, you can have half duplex where you're using two frequencies, but you're not transmitting and receiving the time. You're either transmitting or you're receiving. That's called half duplex. But when you call full duplex, you're actually receiving and transmitting at the exact same time. So the controller is taking, so why it's called a repeater, it repeats everything in here. So everything that is coming in the receiver through the controller and simultaneously goes out the transmitter. So in this case, we'll call this frequency number 1 and frequency number 2. So now back to we want to talk to each other. So we're going to, so if this guy was to so when this guy, so now this guy here, he's going to talk, he's going to transmit on our frequency number 1, we'll say in this case. So it goes into the receiver. Our repeater now takes that same signal, repeats it out, and it sends it out on frequency number 2. So here, our other buddy here, he's sitting here, oh, he's listening now. He's listening on frequency number 2. So he's hearing everything. So it's passing everything through. And you get extended range, you get past obstacles, and that's why we use it. And likewise, this guy receives on frequency number 2, and
Dave, I'm going to stop you for a second.
okay.
We're going to take this down. Okay?
Okay.
Can everybody see this? Thank you, Jenny. You're welcome.
Thank you.
There you go. Continue.
Okay. So this is typical. So now we're going to we talk about analog. We talk about analog signals. It's a signal that either varies in voltage as an amplitude modulated signal, or it varies in voltage, or it varies in frequency, which is as an FM modulation. So it's actually an analog value that's changing. When we talk about the digital world, you actually convert the signal to a digital number. So every point in time you're sampling, and you're converting either that voltage or that frequency into a digital computer number. You can transmit those numbers through the system without having to worry about loss or anything. But that's the difference between analog and digital. For our purpose here, for this particular point in time, we're just talking about a plain analog repeater. So in Sault Ste. Marie right now, our main repeater that we use for most of our stuff, so the main repeater we talk about or we use in town is, and its license is VE3SSM, right? It listens on a frequency of 146.34, transmits on a frequency of 146.94. But likewise, your vehicles are going to be reversed, so it's going to, your mobile now, it's got to listen. Hope you can hear that. so they're actually reversed. So your transmit frequency in your radios, your mobiles, your portable are actually going to be opposite to what the repeater is. Okay. Let me just pick a couple of key terms that we come across. Okay. Now you'll hear sometimes we talk about, oh, we're putting a tone on the transmitter. What does that normally mean? What it means is, because we had to do that here in the city because you get noise conditions, interference as such, which will actually cause the repeater to be activated spuriously, just on noise or signals that you don't want. So by putting a tone, so I believe hope you remember that from the course. We'll review it again. Most common term. Continuous tone, continuous squelch system. So what it is, we call it, it's a subaudible tone. Audible range in radio world, basically, remember, was basically from 300 cycles to 3,000. So in most radios we have a filter. So what we call the subaudible portion is the very low frequency tones, which are between, I believe they go from, I think between about 70 hertz and 267 hertz. These tones are very accurate, very low frequency. So by transmitting that low frequency tone on your signal and having the repeater listening for it, it will only activate when it receives the correct tone. So in our case, in order to get into our repeater, you need to transmit a tone of 107.2 hertz along with your signal, which is a feature which is built in most radios, and that's typically called tone and code. You also, that's the actual technical term for it. You'll actually hear it referred to as PL tone, which is a Motorola's patented name was called for private line, which does the same thing. General Electric, had their patented name was Channel Guard for the same thing. They all mean the same thing. One of the purposes they use the tones for is you could actually have two repeaters on the same frequency that could possibly overlap. So if you want to be very selective and say, I only want to use this radio, or I only want to talk to these people, we'll use these set of tones. There's another term which is starting to come. We don't use it around here, but some places they use it just for term of reference. They also, some cases they use a DCS, it's called a digital coded squelch. Instead of an actual analog frequency value, it's an actual digital code that gets sent.
So what is the purpose of that subaudible code again? Well, why do you have that?
Well, it's two purposes. So that it's to eliminate interference. Like you could have, in the commercial world, you might have more than one company using the same frequency. So what you would have was this company's people, their radios all be set to use this tone, and you could have another group of people on the same frequency using a different tone, and neither one would hear each other's conversations.
Okay. So there's less interference.
Yeah. Well, actually, in our case, we have on our same frequency. There's a repeater in West Branch, Michigan, on the exact same frequency. And there's another one in Owen Sound. In certain conditions in the summer, more prevalent in the summer, it's usually, the term they usually call is ducting. When you actually get a, because of temperature inversions and stuff, you actually have a layer, it acts just as if it was a duct. It'll actually transmit the signals over long distances. So in that case, as you start getting, you're starting in weird signals and weird voices. It happens here sometimes in the summertime. So just to be very selective. So in other words, so that you can say, I want just to use this repeater and nothing will interfere with that repeater except that tone. If it doesn't hear that tone, it doesn't do a thing.
Excuse me, Dave, how do you pick the tone to use then? Just arbitrarily or?
It's something you pay, there are sort of it's more or less each area will, let's see how I put that. In most major areas, they actually have a frequency coordinating council, and they will do that, and they will assign the tones, knowing what everybody else is doing, so that it's not duplicated or overlaps. We've picked this tone because we know it's basically available, and it's also common. It's the same one they use in the repeaters in Sault, Michigan.
Are they like certain tones you use, or can you use any?
No, there's an actual
list
table. I think there's about 50 of them, I think, if I remember right. I can actually show you. It's in a book, and they're not that far apart either. It's amazing because the next common tone to this is 103.5. So your circuitry is very precise. So you have to be right on with that. Okay, let's see, what else? So we talked about simplex, we talked about duplex. Don't be afraid to stop and if you have any questions. And what else we have? Okay, another thing we'll talk about too, in sometimes special features, we have dual tone multiple frequency. Everybody uses that every day now. When you make a call on your telephone, that's exactly what you're using. Every button you push is two unique combination of two tones. And we use the exact same tones on a radio, yeah, like you say, on your microphone or on your keypad. In our case, typically you use it for functions like we can link and unlink various repeaters and stuff, and just by any radio knowing the code, punch it in, and there we go. So that's what we use ETMF for, basically for control functions.
Hello? This is your cell phone! What do you think it is not?
Okay. Alright, so let's see. My notes. So we talked duplex. So basically, as the term can be used interchangeably, split or duplex means you're transmitting and receiving on two different frequencies.
So Dave, what does it mean when the radio is tuned up and it's either Vox or memory? What's that all about? It says Vox or memory.
Okay.
VFO or memory, choosing, yeah, VFO or memory.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about that. On your radios, example, you basically have two modes of operation. Very first term stands for variable frequency oscillator. That's really a carryover from the days of crystal radios, where in a lot of older radios you had some specific channels that were crystal controls. You'd buy crystals for some of the popular channels that you would use regularly. You'd put a set of crystals in for each frequency that you use. That was back before the days of synthesis and stuff. Or you had the option in the radio would have a variable frequency oscillator, which would allow you basically to vary it to any frequency. it wasn't maybe quite as stable or whatever, but generally, so in those cases, you basically either was crystals or VFO operation. Nowadays, typical radios, you have VFO still, because the term is a carryover from years gone by, or memory mode, where you actually have a bunch of memories that you've pre-programmed with the frequencies you're going to use. So it's just a matter of selecting a memory that's got the frequency that you want to use. If it's a frequency you don't have in your radio, you're going to go to VFO mode and just dial it up for the frequency that you want. Question so far?
So the memory mode is where you would have stored all your duplex channels, right?
Well, it could be simplex, could be duplex, it could be any particular channel or operation that you want to select.
Okay.
Because typically in your radio, you'll probably have a combination of duplex channels, which are the repeaters. In some older radios, you actually had to set the transmit frequency and the receive frequency, but the newer radios now, you see it's just simply an offset. It knows if you say there's two possible, we're talking, we'll stick for the basis, the majority of communications on 2 meters or the 144 to 148 megahertz band, which is the amateur 2 meter band. Okay. So we take, in this case, we would specify, if I told you, the standard, unless it's an oddball that you hear, otherwise you can always assume that it's a 600 kilohertz offset, or if we prefer, so if, let's say it's a negative offset, when you transmit, you're going to transmit a frequency 600 kilohertz lower than your receive frequency. So in our case, since I'm saying it's a negative offset, we would transmit on if I said it was a positive offset, we would add 600 kilohertz to that. Generally, there are exceptions, but generally the rule of thumb is anything under 147 megahertz is used as a negative offset. And anything over 147 megahertz generally uses a positive offset. But generally in any listing you'll see, they will basically tell you the repeater, its transmit frequency, and it'll say a plus or a minus offset.
And these repeater stations, a private individual can have a station, I understand, is that right? A repeater themselves, their own repeater
You can.
station? And
You need an advanced license first of all to have
that's what
it.
I want to
but
ask. So that's what you have to get. You have to get your advance to
Yes.
be able to operate.
To be able to sponsor it or actually operate one. But yeah, there's people that have
Are those costly to operate?
to operate basically hydro and maintenance. Hopefully you don't have any physical weather damage or anything, but most cases it's just electricity to run the site, or depends on your case, you may have to pay rent to somebody if you're actually using somebody else's site. The equipment is somewhat costly.
Do you have to have your advance for a temporary repeater?
Sure?
Do you have to have your advance if you're only going to put a repeater up for like the day?
Yes. To operate one or set up a station, you do need advance or somebody with advance to basically take responsibility for it. Any other questions so far? Any other terms or anything? Everybody's
What about squelch?
okay. As in life, there's generally either natural or man-made noise out there, electrical noise. So when you're sitting there listening to a frequency with basically with no carrier transmission on it, you're going to hear noise, right? Is your radio set up here?
Don't ask me how to change the squelch on it.
Yeah. Okay, this is a bad example. Okay. But anyway, typically you turn your radio on, you hear a big lots of noise, and by adjusting the squelch control, you actually point to point, it cancels out the point of that noise, and it silences the radio. And it's looking for a. Okay. So it's listening for a change. Actually, what happens is when you transmit or carry, you'll actually hear it'll get quieter. So it's actually listening to detect that amount of quieting, and that's how you detect there's an actual signal there. It's the absence of noise or the quieting signal. That's in that it basically turns on the receive of the radio in here. So that's the term you hear, slang, whatever. It's called breaking the squelch. That's when you actually hear the noise is overcome and you actually hear audio coming out of the radio. Perfect timing for demonstrated. Okay, for example, yeah. So like I said, I mentioned here, and just to stick with standard, like one of the other. Okay. Just to say where that said, remember, it said the break point is 147. So for example, Elliott Lake is at the border, so now they have a plus offset. Now you would transmit on .600 if you're going to get into the Elliott Lake review. And I guess at this point, I guess we will. I don't know who we credit to, but somebody was kind enough to publish lists of yeah.
Now on this it says D-Star on here, these are all analog otherwise?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll pass it around just a second. Here's just a typical 2-meter mobile radio. You have two basic functions. We have your volume control, your squelch, we just talked about. You basically adjust it until the noise disappears. You have you can select your VFO mode we're talking about, memory mode, and we can turn on the continuous tone that we were talking about. Now, that's running, but take a look at it. That's just a typical radio. And as we were talking, I'll just carry on one little bit more about tones. Actually, we kind of use the tones in two ways. We refer to, they'll say, we'll encode it. That means so when we turn on the encode function or the tone function in most radios, that means we're gonna send that subaudible tone. In our case here, we're gonna send 107.2 hertz with every transmission. But there's also a decode function. If you find you're getting bothered by interference, or possibly you're starting to hear another repeater or something that you don't want to hear, you can use the decode function on your radio. And again, just like your reading, you can set it so only when that tone comes through, your squelch will open. And so it's, and in most radios, you'll actually see little icons that come up in your display. In a lot of cases, typically it will say maybe just tone. Generally, when you're only encoding it, and a lot of radios will actually come up and it may say SS or some such thing. And that means you're basically encoding it and decoding as well. And that's a function sometimes you use. Sometimes you start getting interference, or that you may want to set your radio to decode. But it's a matter of preference in most cases. Okay, another term you hear a lot. We'll talk about. We're having a net. That's typical short word for network of stations. So it's a network. It's a group of radio stations, ham radio stations in our case, sitting on a frequency. But a network is an organized thing. If there was no coordination, it would be just a free-for-all, right? So typically when you have an official network of any kind, there would be somebody designated as your net control. So he basically is like the chairman of a meeting or your traffic cop. So he's going to control the communications. He has control of that frequency. So what like any of you have had the chance to listen to one of our informal 9 o'clock nets in the evening, it's the same thing. It's an informal session, but you have one control operator. He'll say, okay, I'm looking for check-ins now. So people will give their call signs and wait until he calls them in turn. So if we're operating a net of any kind, you'll have a net control and it'll be converted. If you have something to say, you either give your call sign, or you may say, if it's early, you may say, this is VE3DPT with some traffic. So that's going to tell him you have something more urgency, and he's going to most likely stop everything and call on you at this time.
So with a net like that, if, let's say there were 20 people on it in one shot, and you had something urgent you needed to say, you didn't want to wait all night,
Yeah.
but you want to get in and get off the air. So how would you?
You could say, I would say, I guess Brent can comment more, but it's, you would give, because every good operator will every so often pause a little bit to listen for anything.
Right.
You could say this is V3DPT with traffic. Or it sounds to me more like CB, but you could just come in and say break. And that's saying, hey, break the action, I have something to say. If we're in an emergency situation, which I guess we're kind of leading towards, that is where it's very, very important to have a net control officer, and who's going to be determined by priorities. And so depending what you have to say or what's going on, he will control and direct it so that people with priority will get priority to pass their messages along and stuff.
Dave, when, like that net part, when you log in or you know, give them a call, you just say your call sign and that's it, nothing else, and then you wait for him to come back to you?
Yes,
Okay.
that's typically
'Cause
what
I
you.
wasn't sure if you give your call sign and then start talking,
No.
or, so he just,
Like typically, I'll say, if you're listening, I'll say, okay, we're looking for check-ins for
Yeah.
tonight's now. So, people orderly come in, just give your call sign, basically get put on the list then, right? And so then, at some time, your operator will say, okay, that's it, hold it here, I'll deal with people I have so far. They'll acknowledge each person in order, let everybody say what they have to say, whatever. And once he's gone through that, they usually say, okay, we're going for another round of check-ins.
Okay.
So then, anybody else who hasn't checked in they'll give their call sign. And obviously, if you have something that's important, or you have some traffic, instead of just saying your call sign, you may say, I'm with traffic. So he's gonna take you first.
okay.
So, Dave, you know, since we're talking about emergencies, what happens to these emergencies and these Red Cross people in an emergency situation? Let's say the power's out, we've got an ice storm here in Sault Ste. Marie. Is the repeater working or is it off the air?
Okay. Generally, for most I would say majority of situations, our repeater, we actually have a battery backup and we can run for several hours on the batteries. So, so far we haven't had an issue. But in worst case, if the repeater was to go down for the count, yeah, you either have the option, you could switch to another one, but generally what would happen is rather than avoid confusion, maybe Brand will probably comment on this later, but typically what everybody would, the net control operator would probably say, okay, we have an issue, go to simplex. So everybody's already listening on, in our case, 146.94. If the repeater's not working, you would say, okay, we're going to go on simplex. So what you would have to do is change your radio to 146.94 simplex. Which is, in this city, would be your main option because it's not that spread out. In most cases, you can talk to one another on simplex. Okay, any questions now before we get too far along? Alright. So far we've talked about analog repeaters. So we have, okay. So what they've come along with, there's various schemes. So now we have two repeaters that are far enough apart that we say, gee, how about if we link these two repeaters? Now everybody in range of this repeater could also talk to anybody in the range of that repeater, which is something we commonly do. But some of the common schemes we do right now, you've heard of IRLP, Internet Relay Linking Project. That was actually developed in Canada and BC by a man by the name of Dave Cameron. They used that to link a bunch of mountaintop repeaters in BC to each other, which give them excellent coverage over there. So what we're doing, we're just taking in this case, two ordinary run-of-the-mill analog repeaters, but at each site, now, we have a computer running a Linux based some software. Linked by internet. So we use an internet connection to connect the two repeaters, which normally would have been out of range to each other. But everything is analog to this point until we actually go into the computer. We'll change it to a digital signal, transmit it across the internet, and convert it back to an analog signal. And so basically it's more or less we call it an analog system. There's also another common one is Echolink. It's simply called All-Star Asterisk. Again, these are a popular thing that more or less do the same thing. Take two analog repeaters, link them over the internet to each other so that you can talk from here and basically to someone here. I'm not the greatest artist for sure. So by using some of these linking schemes, someone here talk to that repeater and actually talk to this fellow here going through the other repeater. So these are some of the popular schemes they use for doing analog linking. What the newest trend we've gone through now is we come to some fully digital modes. So actually, in a full digital mode, so in a digital radio, you still have a microphone, you start out with an analog signal. But in the radio itself, it converts it to a digital signal, or it converts every value to a number. This repeater itself actually only deals with numbers or digital signals. And likewise, we do the same thing. We connect and in this case we so typical. Okay, so what we do in our system, you start off with just with your microphone, an analog signal, converts it to digital, goes through a digital radio, goes through the internet as a digital signal, comes through another digital repeater, and actually in the receiving radio is where it actually is converted from digital back to analog and comes out your speaker. The most common formats they're using nowadays, basically for amateur radio and stuff, for digital, you'll hear talk of D-Star, which was developed by the Japan Amateur Radio League, which is kind of one of the first programs. That's the actual format we're using for our new repeater in town, the VA3SNR repeater. There's also up and coming, there is digital mobile radio, which is based on the Motorola commercial radios. You have a new player on the block is System Fusion. That's Yaesu's newest digital form. So that's more of the trend nowadays. We're going to digital. Just like over the years, your very first cell phones were analog devices, and they found that by going to digital, you're going to get a whole lot more units on the same frequency at a time, and it's a lot more efficient than just plain analog. So in a nutshell, that's kind of analog repeaters, digital repeaters, some of the terminology we use. Have I lost anybody or any questions so far? Yeah,
Those
good.
three, D-Star, DMR, System Fusion, they don't talk to each other, do they?
What's that?
They don't correspond with each other. They're
No,
very independent
they're
of one
no.
another.
It's like the analogy I use. It's remember the old the Beta VHS thing. It was 2 or 3 different. In that case, there was 2 different standards that were totally different, and some companies went with one and some went with the other, and it was just a matter of what kind of won out in the end. Right now, you've got 3 or 4 competing technologies. You're starting to see they're starting to actually come up with systems or gateways which will actually allow you to go back and forth a little bit. Hopefully down the road someday there's going to be a little more standardization. There is companies starting to work on producing radios that will actually operate in more than one format. For the most part though, you're basically locked in. If you want D-Star, you buy an ICOM D-Star radio, and that's all it will do digitally. It will just talk to other D-Star radios, and likewise DMR radios will only talk to other DMR radios and stuff.
Dave, can I just add something too? Adding to what Dave's saying, when he was saying about them working together, me and Dave have been talking, but there's actually a net on now to actually tonight, we can't get into it right now, but that actually incorporates D-Star, IRLP, Echolink, all the other different ones, so they are starting to talk to each other. Who knows when the other ones come in, but it definitely is happening, so.
But if the internet goes down, it won't work, right?
That's right.
It's all
So
digital.
what, like I see, what's the advantage of having any of that when you have Skype, for instance?
That's a good point. It's just the
If
fact
you're
that
using the internet,
yeah,
why would you even need to use a radio?
good point. It's unfortunately, typically though, in an emergency situation, you're going to find that your typical cellular systems and that are going to be just jammed up and bogged down, and may or may not work.
But with that
But like I say, with the current technologies, I think that's one of the things that's really been, we'll say, possibly the downfall of amateur radio. Well, before, like, you know, years ago, I mean, if you wanted to talk to Europe, it was either make a very, very expensive long-distance phone call, or you talk over HF radio. Whereas nowadays, I mean, you have your cell phone, and for cents a minute, you can talk anywhere. You're right.
I've been using Echolink, and for me, it's good in the sense that it presents a number of different stations that are available in different countries, so you can select a country if you want to go and work that area, and you could be connecting with somebody who's using HF antennas versus your laptop. You're using a laptop, they're using standard analog system, so that's kind of, it makes it interesting.
From the disaster side of things, does the internet connections between the towers, if there's a large power outage, does it have its own power backup, like gensets or whatever, or if it's a large power outage, the towers are down? Because from our standpoint, that's a huge thing.
Yes. Well, typically, like for amateur stuff, in our case, our repeaters, we do have backup batteries, so we can run for hours. If the city was to go black right now, our repeaters would be still up and running.
I guess what my question is right now, we're running mostly on 2 meter.
Yes.
If the internet connection, so that we can't link the towers, if that goes down, are we gonna have, like, is it gonna go down during a major power outage? And if so, we need to look at HF systems, not.
That's exactly right. That will be your backup. That's a whole topic in itself, I guess, and Brent may want to talk about it. But that's,
Providers have an 8 to 10 hour backup.
if you haven't yet, you may hear the term ARES or ARES, Amateur Radio Emergency Service, and that's one of the functions we do. In the city, we actually have the facilities to transmit both VHF, UHF, and HF from the Emergency Operations Center.
Dave, can I add one thing? I was lucky to see this. I was in Las Vegas 6 years ago. I met an amateur down there, and his name's Ken, and he oversees all the stuff for Red Cross and everything. And they actually have a big, massive, I think it's a Hummer, and it's outfitted with satellite uplink for internet to do all this, for IRLP, Echolink, digital, everything. And so, I mean, they can pretty much do everything, you know. So, I mean, if you had internet, like internet here through satellite, you'd pretty much be able to link up with anybody that way too, as long as they have it as well, so.
I also understand that if the, and this is not commonly known, but if the, let's say cell phone system is down, and we're in an emergency, if we may eventually get a 1.2 gigahertz unit for our D-Star. And I understand from the technicians, I don't know how this works, but I just heard that it's possible that 1.2 gig unit can be used to provide cell phone service without the cell phone service. So that would be a very handy thing to have.
If I can just interrupt here, Mike, if you can ask me the question again when I come up, and I'll just talk about it very briefly here. I don't want to hold up Dave on his presentation here, and we'll get into that, but we'll save that for another night. Talking about, because I don't want you all running out of here screaming, we're all going to die. I'll talk very briefly about areas and emergencies.
But for locally, for most cases, especially like Red Cross people, typically if we ever have an emergency in the city and the telephone service was to go down, amateur radio would be the place, because if you're setting up evacuation centers and whatever in the city, that's going to be your means of talking between the office here and the various functions. In the basic form, that's what it's going to be. Generally, like I say, you would most likely be going through repeaters, or very worst case, you'd be working simplex. But you would still have communications locally between your various operations in the city. And as far as between the city and other cities, that will be handled through the Emergency Operations Center, like you said. That's another topic in itself, probably for another day. Good, and I guess to wrap up, one more term I'll throw at you tonight. Reflector. What a reflector is, it's not a radio. It typically, a reflector is a computer, and they're usually installed in. Shut it off.
Yeah, there you go.
It's typically put in a data center or somewhere where they have lots of bandwidth, and it's a means of connecting various repeaters together. So you can have, or you can actually, in some cases, directly link into the reflector from your own station through the internet. So just in a very crude example here, we'll say, here's our computer, which is our reflector. So this repeater links to it, this guy links to it, this guy links to it, and say this guy links to it. Now anybody connected to any one of those repeaters can talk to everybody else. So again, it reflects the signal. So it's like a mirror. Anything that comes in just bounces right back out again. So anything coming into it goes out to everybody. So everybody hears everything on it. And for example, we use right now on the D-Star system, they have a network which is on Monday evenings, just basically called the Northern Ontario network, and we connect the D-Star repeater in Sault Ste. Marie, the one in Sudbury, the one in Manitoulin Island, and the one in Timmins. We all connect to a reflector, so now every signal everybody hears everything. You don't have that ability, for each repeater can only basically link to one other thing. You can't have a repeater linking to 3 or 4 repeaters, whereas the reflector does that job for you. So that's the difference between a reflector and a repeater. I know some people have had that confusion. And again, this is just very informal off the top of my head, but any questions I can answer before I turn it over to my partner here.
Just a quick one. I've seen information for a repeater on St. Joe's. Is that no longer in
Nope,
service?
that's one of ours.
Okay.
146.880, the license of it is V3SJI. And actually what we've been doing for our nets in the evening is we're actually linking the 9.4 repeater to St. Joe Island so that we can actually, people down in Thessalon and east of the city who are out of range can actually come into that repeater through the link into the system. So for example, my friend in Thessalon can sit on his couch with his handheld. He'll talk through the St. Joe Island repeater, which is linked, and everything will come through in the Sault.
I just haven't been able to get it up.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I haven't been able to pick up the repeater yet, so.
Okay, yeah, there's handouts are going around, that's just some of the common frequencies, and likewise the club in Sault, Michigan, they have also several repeaters, and you're more than welcome to use them. There's the one in Sault, Michigan itself, 147.210, Pickford's 146.64, and on and on. And most cases the repeaters, you know, if you're out and about, you're more than welcome to just put out your call and see if anybody's listening to that, find somebody to talk to. Because going east, the first one you'll come across, again, like St. Joe Island, then there's another one in Elliott Lake. Then just get past Elliott Lake, I bet you should be able to raise the Manitoulin Island repeater. It's got excellent coverage, and so on. As you drive along, you can find a repeater to connect to.
All right, my name is Brent McMillan. Call sign is V3OTL, and I'm here to give you a little, I guess, an overview of, so like what happens now. You've all taken the radio course here. You know, you went through 8 weeks of hell. Learned a lot of stuff you thought you didn't really need to know, and wrote a 100-question quiz and passed it. Now you got your, you passed the test. You got your license. Come out and you're just, you know, your head's spinning, and now what? So you want to get on the air. You want to talk to somebody. That's why you took the course. Like, I want to become an amateur radio operator. I want to get a radio. I want to talk to somebody. And I want to talk to somebody maybe far away, you know, at some point. So how am I going to make that happen? So this little PowerPoint presentation I got here is going to be like kind of a guide to point you in the right direction and on, first of all, what to buy as far as radios, what to look for, and you know how to get started and that kind of thing. So we were all at the same point as you. We all had to go take that course and write that test and come out of it. My head was spinning, and you know, like, you know, I want to, you know, I heard the presentation here, and there's a lot of information you got to know, you know, and but again, like, I just want to talk to somebody. I want to grab a radio and get on there and talk to somebody. So fortunately today it's a little easier than what it used to be in days gone by. So when I got my license, a friend lent me his handheld radio to use, and so I got on 2 meters for at the first. The handheld, I don't have it here with me tonight, but the body of it was about the size of this hand cleaner thing, okay? It had the pull-up telescopic antenna that seemed like to go like 20 feet long, but actually it was probably about, I don't know, 3 or 4 feet long. You probably remember those from the horrible, the silver antenna that you pull out. Usually it bent it and wouldn't go back down again the same way it went out, but at some point, you know. So yeah, got this big old honking radio up there. Hi, it's V3OTL, it's my first check-in into the net, you know, and you know, like, if you were anywhere public, people would be looking at you like, you know, like that, you were that Martian on My Favorite Martian with, you know, 2 antennas at the top of your head. So anyways, that's what I started off with that one. So I wanted to get a handheld, and I bought one locally at one of the radio hams had one. This is my first handheld that I had. And I'll pass it around. This was it's made by ICOM. One of the there's three big name radio manufacturers in amateur radio. There's ICOM, ICOM, Kenwood. You probably recognize Kenwood from Kenwood receivers. They were big in stereos, and they still are in home theater. It's the same people. The guy that makes your stereo receiver at home he started off making amateur radio first, and Japanese guy his last name is Kenoshi or something like that. So the Kenwood is K-E-N, that's part of his name. And so anyways, he wanted he didn't name his company ICOM or Yaesu, it was Kenwood, it was more of an American name. So Kenwood is another big name, and the other one is Yaesu. Okay, the three big names in amateur radio, okay? It's like Pontiac, Dodge, and Ford, you know, and there's some other names too, but it's like just like cars. There's like other brands of cars. So this was the first radio that I had. Okay, it was one channel. Okay, on the when I pass it around, you'll see that it has thumb wheels on it, and that's how you selected your frequency. When you look at the when you look at the frequency on it right now, it says 694 on the thumb wheels. Okay, you put the 14 in front of it. So it was 14694. That's the frequency that it's on, okay? And it had a volume switch up here and a squelch switch. And as Dave said, for anybody who had like a CD radio, you had to adjust the squelch on it, so you weren't listening to that rushing sound all the time, okay? So it'd drive you crazy. So you adjust the squelch so that when a signal came on, it would break the squelch and you could hear the people talking. Also had a touch tone pad on it. Back in the, when I got on the air, I got my license in 1985. That was like pre-cell phone, or cell phones were just on the verge of coming out. Like, you were the coolest dude in the block because you could make phone calls from here. Yeah, I got it all going on here now, you know. So, you could be, when those people look at you weird because you got this brick you're holding on to that, talking on the radio down on the boardwalk, you just see what this little brick can do here. I can call home on it, you know, and then, like, you were the king of the hill then. So, yeah, the radio repeaters used to have access to telephones. It was telephone access. They had a radio, or they had a phone line hooked up to the radio repeater. You dial the code to bring up the phone line. You make a phone call. It was cool. So that's why they had the touch tone pads on them. That was mainly the basic reason why they put them on there to start with. And also on the back, there's about 3 switches on there. One was for low and high power. You run low power, I think it was like 1 watt. I think high power was 3 watts, or maybe it was less than that. And obviously, you ran low power and you were able to get into the repeater and without your signal sounding really bad. You wanted to run low power because the battery would last a lot longer. And then it had that offset thing. Remember when Dave was talking about getting into the repeater? When you transmit you transmit for the SSM repeater, you transmit 146.34 and you listen 146.94. So that's how a repeater works. It's 2 different frequencies. So it had the little offset thing here. It would do the math for you and for talking, for transmitting into it. And the other switch was whether it was duplex or simplex. As Dave was saying again, if you wanted to operate simplex where you transmitted and listened on the same frequency, it will switch on the back. So that was the kind of like the basic handheld radio of the 1980s. That's what it had. Okay, but we had different repeaters here in town. Okay, and you can only listen to one. If you want to listen to 146.88, move those little thumb wheels and you're on 8.8. Your buddies are talking about you back in 9.4. So it's coming back to 9.4. Okay, so if you're nosy like I am, you know, and you want to keep on top of everything that's going on, you needed something with memory channels on it. Okay, and that was a little. They did have them. They were, you know, they had other models of radios that had memory channels on them, but they were more expensive. And it's like everything. It's like if you want power windows in your car, it's going to cost you more. So that's the way it worked. today's radios come with power windows, okay? They've got all those little bells and whistles and functions and stuff like that. So, I guess we should start the PowerPoint. I'm probably way ahead of it here now, but, yeah, so when you want to buy, probably you want to buy a handheld as your first radio. And you want to buy something that's inexpensive, it's very reliable and easy to use. Three key things. Cheap, because I'm not really sure if I'm going to really like this hobby or something like that, but you know what, I just invested 8 weeks in it, I better give it a good try. And, but you know, if I don't like it, you know, nothing to venture, nothing to get, didn't spend too much money on it. And you want reliability that, you know, it's going to last, and you want it easy to use. It's, you know, you don't need a PhD to figure out how to use the radio. So, next slide. Actually, we'll go ahead one more here. The latest radio out on the market right now are, and probably the best bang for the buck, are the Chinese radios. And one of them is called Bofang. No idea what that means. That could be Chinese, whatever. Anyways, Bofang, and this is the UV5R. As you can see, it's got the basics of the that first radio that I had. It's got the keypad on it, and the keypads on them now is how you can program them, and you can enter in frequencies directly and stuff like that. It's LED indicator, band key. These things here are dual band too, that they'll operate on 2 meters and also on 440. George has got one there. Yeah.
That's nice, it's
We've
smaller, I
tested it.
like the sound on it and everything,
Yeah.
it's dual band.
Are these as reliable as the other names?
Yes. Yes. Reliable as far as like the other brand names, like they're the Cadillac of the other radios. You know, it's basically the rule of thumb like anything. Like if you get what you pay for. If you know, they're very the other brand names. If you spend $300 on a handheld, it's a very high quality handheld. Okay.
Yeah, I think
Whereas-
I paid like a little over $50 for that one. ordered
These
it.
ones here will do the trick. Okay.
But things burn out faster, is that right? Or would you say?
Well, let's take into consideration, okay? These are probably about $50 Canadian right now, okay? So you can buy one of those for $50, or you can buy a top of the line radio from one of the big three for $300.
Yeah.
So I can buy one for $50 or one for $300, or I can buy six Bofangs and one $300 ICOM radio, and I can drop 5 of those Bofangs. I still have a Bofang radio to use. So that's the thing about it. If whether it's a $50 radio or a $300 radio, you drop that on concrete from about this high up, chances are it's going back to the manufacturer for repair. Okay. With the electronics that are in these radios today, these are all surface mount technology built radios. As far as the circuit boards in them, is something you cannot repair at home. Okay, it's all very small components in there that were built by robots. That like our fingers are not that small enough to be able to get in there, and actually we don't have the test equipment or the equipment to be able to replace any of the components in them. So they are throwaway radios. You know, when it goes, and you know what, it will happen. Like a few amateurs in town have had problems with them. When it goes defective, throw it away and get another one. You know, or you know, if you're getting in seriously in the hobby, buy that more expensive radio. You know, with the bells and whistles on it. But for the money, this is the best bang for the buck right now. The neat thing about these radios today are you can program them with your computer. There's a cord that plugs in the USB port and plugs into the speaker microphone ports on the radio. Software is available off the internet for free, and you program the radio. For all of your benefit, if you buy a Bofang radio, the radio club, the Algoma Amateur Radio Club, will program the radio for you. We'll put all the frequencies in it for you, everything that we know that's around town, and you can go from there. And for, I think it's $15 to $20 for that cord, that programming cord.
It's like $3
It's
now.
$3, cause
$3?
mine's on the, I'm waiting for it to show up.
Okay.
Literally $3.
$3. You can change, once you get the program, you can go in and change it if you want, put whatever you want in. They will listen to the OPP, they'll listen to the ambulance, like, they go outside of the ham radio bands, because, you remember from your course that we share the bands with other services, okay? And these radios will go there, you can listen to them. And, so you can program those frequencies in. If you know what they are, you can program them in, okay? The blurb before this, I pulled off the internet here. When I googled Bullfang V5 or UV5Rs, and this was a write-up about it. That they said it's FM receiver. It also receives FM too. You can listen to 101 FM if you want, or Q 104.3. Q104. Yeah, you can listen to broadcast radio stations off it too. And they say as it says here, it works better than any of Sony's radios for audio on it. So they're like, I'm not the Bullfang Canada representative here, but for the price, they're a good deal. Okay. For them, like I say, we'll program them for you, and away you go. I would recommend it if you're going to buy one of these, get the cable for it to program it with your computer, because that what comes with them is the manual on how to use it, how to program it. Brutal. You might as well stand on one foot, jump up and down, and pat your head. That's about as how easy it is to program one of those radios. Like, they're just unreal. So get the cable to program it. Okay, so that's that. Next screen, Maestro, like that. There we go. There are other brands available. I mentioned this one here, Waxon. That's I think that's how you spell it and how you say it. It's another Chinese handheld. They were very compatible with Bullfang. They all do the same kind of features. Okay, everything you can imagine. This one I passed around to you. It had the numbers on it for the radio frequency. With these newer handhelds, you can put the numbers in if you want, or you can put a name in them if you want. Like for the local VE3SSM repeater, you can put in VE3SSM. So you don't have to remember the frequency anymore. You just turn around on the dial and VE3SSM. That's where I am, or VE3SGI. Okay, so you have the option of either one for them. So Waxon is another Chinese handheld. Again, same features, same price. The only thing I can say to you was when I was preparing this presentation for you, I'm getting all this stuff off of Google, which is probably the greatest thing. The greatest thing about the internet is you don't know anything, you don't have to go and search it like anymore. You just type whatever you're looking for in, and it'll go find it for you, and then you click on the right link. But look up Waxon USA. There was a dealer in the United States that was selling lots and lots of Waxon radios. He doesn't sell them anymore, and he's got a write-up on them that I started reading it and said, I'm glad I didn't buy one. There's a problem with the memory in them. Waxon radios will lose their memory. And he goes in to explain why it loses its memory. And he had problems with the factory in doing warranty replacements. He was standing up for his customers and taking the replacements on himself. You'd say, our radio doesn't work. And he'd say, send it back. And he would send you another one. To the point that he got stuck with a bunch of radios. And he had a falling out with the factory. He said, that's it. So go on and read it. Waxon USA. And it's right on one of the links there. The reason why I'm not selling Waxon radios anymore. So it's very interesting to read. Again, here's the other, there's four of them. Kenwood, Yaesu, and ICOM are the big three. They sell more radio products than any other company in the world. Alinco is somewhat behind them, but they sell a very good quality radio product. They just don't have that corner of the market that the other three have. The neat thing about the Alincos, and I should have brought it with me here tonight, they make the smallest handheld in the world. I have one of them. I was lucky enough to buy it at a ham fest, and lucky enough that I bought it for a really good price. but they call it the credit card radio. It's about the size of a credit card, and it's maybe about 3 times the thickness of a credit card. Very low power, but it can fit in your pocket, you know, and there's no bulge or anything like that. So it's, for me, it's like I ride around the motorcycle. It's great. I can, you know, have it in my leather jacket. There's no great, you know, it's not like the bottle of hand cleaner in my jacket you're driving around. So yeah, it's they make a nice product, but I guess you could say they have a niche market. All right, so where do I find radios for sale? I listed some websites here, and Mike is going to bring one up, maybe. Okay, this is a Canadian Canadian store in Toronto called Radio World. It's off of 400 and Steeles. If you're going to Toronto from the Sioux, get off the exit at Steeles Avenue and turn left, and they're right there as soon as you turn left. Huge store in there. But they've not only gone in, they started off with ham radio as their main product, and they ventured out into everything else. Like, as you can see, metal detectors, marine products. So they have all the brand names on there. Whatever you're looking for, you can go in there and look around and see what kind of prices they have. With the value of the Canadian dollar versus the American, it's worth your while these days to check out the prices on Canadian websites as well as American websites, and do the math and figure out, you know, who's giving you the best bang for your buck as far as if you're going to buy a new radio, especially for some of the higher end radios. Like we were talking about handhelds here, and we talked about the Bullfang being the inexpensive handheld. If you're going to buy a Bullfang, go to Amazon.ca or eBay and look up the prices on them. I think, Mike, if you go to Amazon.ca and type in Bullfang UV5R, they're going for $45, $50, something like that right now. Okay. Neat thing about these radios, as you can see too, that they give them in different colors. I'm a sucker for blue, so I have blue handle. So and you get black, you camouflage, and red, yellow. What?
Bullfang, B-O-E.
B-A-O.
P-O-F-U-N-G.
B-O.
B-A-O.
On the box.
B-O.
F-E-N-G.
.ca.
So Amazon.ca. There it is, $44.59. Okay. Brand new. Okay. So that's for for Bullfang. That's my recommendation if you're gonna buy one. It'll be here, and I ordered a Raspberry Pi off of Amazon on Monday. It came at lunchtime today. So yeah, they're quick. So yeah, that's them. We seen Radio World. Next one, actually they're all the same. Like if you go back to Radio World, okay, so we look up in the amateur products over here and let's go. We want to do Kenwood. Sure. Kenwood, handheld amateur radios.
What?
Bottom, right there. Okay, and list them and different prices and stuff like that. So they're well, it looks like the cheapest one's $155 for, and so it brings up a nice little picture to tell you what all it does. Pretty well, they all do the same thing. It's they all
I
have.
think some of them are just one band,
Yeah, this one here will be a single band. It looks like.
and that's the cheaper ones.
Yeah, for it. But there's yeah, just to give you an indication of price too, we'll just go into the go back to Kenwood for HF transceivers.
Okay.
This would be the shock factor here we're talking about here now. The one thing about amateur radio is like anything, it's like boats, it's like fishing, it's like sports cars or anything like that. Like the sky's the limit, okay? Like, you know, you can start off at a $50 handheld, and if you want to get an HF radio, it's the top of the line one, which is the Kenwood TS990 here, which is a super rig as far as for working HF, for working DX, for working contests. All the bells and whistles on it. It's got 2 built-in receivers, so it can listen to 2 different frequencies at the same time. Doesn't matter what the frequencies are, they can listen to them in the HF bands. It's got a spectrum analyzer on it. You can see where all the action is. It's kind of like a fish finder for finding where all the stations are. This is, for the super rigs, this is the most inexpensive one. $7,900 Canadian, okay?
Yeah.
Order a couple of them, why have one? You need a backup. Up to $12,000 for an HF rig. So like, I'm telling you, like you can spend a chunk of change, or you can buy something used and spend a lot less money. Again, it's whatever your budget will allow. Okay.
They don't yet make an HF handheld yet, do they? Is
No.
that coming? Do you think
No.
that's not
No.
gonna happen?
It's not going to happen. The problem with that is for HF you need a big antenna.
Yeah,
Okay.
I realize that, but I
Yeah.
thought there may be a way to,
No.
they invent a new way to do it.
What they do is you can, and one of the ideas we have in the club, the grant that we're applying for is to put radio equipment at the Emergency Operations Center that you can remotely operate. The idea that we're having right now is doing it through the internet. But it could be possible you could do that through your handheld too, and it is possible. You can set it up like that. Your own station, you can operate your own radio station if you have one of the newer type of radios. That's internet, or sorry, not even internet compatible, but if that can crossband into VHF, you can operate it from your handheld radio. So not too many people do that. There seems to be a separation between operating VHF and operating HF. You do one or the other, because you don't use one to kind of get to the other. And I think that for people that want to do that, it seemed to be, that was more or less why the movement went to D-Star, went to the IRLP, and went to Echolink.
Did you? Yeah.
That you didn't need to spend all that money on your own setup at home when somebody could do it through a repeater and get you out through the internet. So yeah, that's a couple of the websites, and if we can go back to the Durham Radio is another dealer in Toronto. AES Ham is Amateur Electronics Supply out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Ham Radio City is HRO, or Ham Radio is .com is HRO, Ham Radio Outlet. These are all major dealers in the United States. And Ham City is a new one to me, but they look like they're a reputable dealer. So you can click on them and you can, if you know what you're looking for, if you just want to look around, it's just like the Sears catalog, just go through there and look and see what they have. For used radios, this is where the fun begins. You know, for myself, I have bought over the years very few new radios. It's, I guess it's like buying a car. As soon as you drive it off the lot, it depreciates. Okay, so that's the same with radios. Like they depreciate. You know, like if you're trying to sell like a new to you, like you bought that Kenwood Super Rig, say this year, and got disinterested in the hobby and want to sell it, you're not going to get the price you paid for it when you bought it new. You know, it's going to depreciate. So you can find some really good deals. And all the websites that I've gone to over the years to buy anything, this is my favorite selection, is qth.com. So Mike, can we bring that one up? We'll go through a little guided tour of this one here. This is not exactly the main page for it. This guy that operates this website is also a website provider. So just go qth.com, not the swap part. Yeah. QTH, QRZ.
We're on QRZ.
We want to go to qth.com. Okay, so this is the main here, main board for it, okay? And if you go over here to Ham Radio Info, you click on that and you go to classified ads, that brings you to the screen we were just at, okay? And on this screen here, okay, you can read the ads daily. Right now, there's 195 ads on for today. Yesterday there was 225 that were placed. So we can click on that. We'll just briefly read it. Some of the ads. So these are some of the things that are for sale. A Kenwood THF6A and extras. Okay, that's a 2-meter handheld, and he's listing all the stuff with it. I'm not sure what his price is.
$319 for the
$380 for everything firm. Okay, he's listing how much everything cost him new, and then he says, I'm asking $380 for everything firm, and the only reason I'm selling it is because wife's going to throw me out if I don't or something like that. So, anyways, if you go up to the camera thing, it'll show a picture of it. Okay, and we can enlarge the photo. So, what amateur radio operators do these days that they didn't used to do back when I was shopping, when I used to live on these websites here to buy stuff, they put their QSL card in here. So the reason why they do that is to prove to you that they own that equipment, okay? That it's not a scammer, some guy from Nigeria's wants to trade you like $25,000 in Western Union, what do you call them? Western Union checks. And if you cash them in and send the money back to them and the handheld. So that proves to you that this is probably a legitimate ad, okay? I can tell you that my experience buying on ham radio websites has been very good. I've never been kind of screwed on any deals that I've bought. I can't really say that about eBay. It's when you there's been a couple of deals that have kind of gone, I didn't get what I thought I was getting as far as, I got the piece of equipment, but it wasn't in the cosmetic shape that I thought it was. I'm pretty, I want to see everything in mint new condition, you know, and I freak out when I see scratches on it. And some of them have come like that. So it pays to ask a lot of questions and get a good quality photograph of this. So if we were going to go after this handheld here, we'll go back to the listing here again. Okay, so it's Steve AE2S, my call at ARRL.net or Steven at mycall.net. And if you click on AE2S, okay, it'll bring up his, that's right out of the FCC database there. That's his name and address, and again, that's his QSL card. So if I was going to, if I was getting interested in that handheld, I would send him an email and say, hey Steve, I'm really interested in your handheld. I know he said 380 firm. I'd ask him some generic question like 380 firms that include shipping, and do you have any more pictures of the handheld? Make sure, like, you know, I'm very anal about the scratching kind of thing, the dings and dents. I'd ask him all that too, any dings, dents, issues with it, electronically or cosmetically, and wait for him to reply back. And please reply back with your phone number, or maybe I'll give him my phone number. I've been pretty trusting in doing that, give him my phone number, because you're waiting for him to give your phone number, his phone number, so that way you can call him, so you know he's a live body kind of thing. And you know, talking about the handheld, and make a deal. Like in this one here, he's saying 380 firm. I don't know how firm is firm. You know, it's but he went on to a big spiel. He says, I'm offering this at what I believe is a very fair price. Please do not email me with ridiculous offers. I won't respond. So that means that he's not going to probably take anything under $300. So yeah, and then he says firm. I don't know how firm he's going to be on that, but hey, like it doesn't hurt to ask. So yeah, that, and if you wanted to contact Steve, down here, click here to email. Brings up another little thing, and it tells you about the warnings, and talks about please read our scam warnings and safe trading tips. On this form here too, that they have a scammer feedback list there, and they will list call signs where people have gotten burned over the years, okay? And so you can look and see if his call is on it. Actually, he's got his phone number on here, so you could call him. So he sounds like he's pretty legit. And you know, I wouldn't hesitate to, I don't even know if I'd call him, but I like, you know, it's your first time buying something, so you'd probably call him and talk to him about it and stuff. As I say, ham radio operators, 99% of them are honest, reliable people that when they're selling stuff that you shouldn't have any worries about it.
You do the payment through PayPal every time?
You know, I've gone across the river and bought U.S. Postal Service money orders. Because if you get the Postal Service involved and you get, it used to be this way, I don't know if it still is, if you get the Postal Service involved as far as you buy the money order from them and send it to him and you get taken on the deal, now it's all of a sudden it's postal fraud. Yeah. And
it takes 4 days for those to clear though, does the money orders, right? Because I just sent a money order, and they said I had to wait 4 days for it to clear. That was.
I haven't had that problem in the past. They usually are pretty good. Some of these guys, like some of the stuff I've ordered, and again, this is going back like 4 or 5 years ago. The guy shipped it before he even sent the money order to it. And he's called me, he says, you better be legit, or he says, I'm a commercial pilot for Continental, and I can get up there, you know. No problem. I faxed him a copy of actually it's a bank draft I got from Scotiabank. I faxed him a copy of the bank draft. It's real, it's kind of honest, you know. It was for a rotor, but some people are like that. Like, that was very unusual. He shipped it before I even sent the money, you know, but you know, a lot of these people are, especially there's kind of what semi-dealers on here, people that sell stuff a lot on here. They're flipping radios all the time, and you'll like once you get on these websites and you start seeing the same calls over and over again, you get to know the people who are really legitimate. You wouldn't have any worries at all about
one thing with PayPal I understand is if you use your credit card, the merchant gets that information, whereas with PayPal he doesn't see that, which I thought was good. So I signed up today for that, use PayPal instead of my credit card.
And I use, you know what, I use PayPal too. When I buy stuff off of eBay, PayPal all the time. So you can, so as you can see, you go through you can scroll down to the bottom here. That was the first 10 ads. You go into the next 10 ads. This is the next page. You go all through them. So you can go up to 199 ads on here right now. If we go back to the main. Yeah. Okay. If you go back in here, you can view by category too for whatever you're looking for. Say you're just looking for a UHF, VHF, UHF radio. You can click on here, and these are all. They're not all handhelds, but there'll be like. Base stations in here, there'll be mobile stations. That THF6A that we were just looking at is the second ad here, okay? The one up on the top, which unfortunately doesn't have a picture of, is an ICOM IC910H, which is a VHF, UHF all-mode transceiver. All-mode, it not only operates FM, but it operates sideband, it operates CW for working Aurora, working band openings. Actually, that radio there will go up to 1200 megahertz. And as you can see, the price is, actually it's not a bad price, $1,200, but it's $1,200 American for it. And he also wants local pickup, and actually he's given his grid square, so you'd have to, if we click on his call sign, we can see where he is. That one there, you gotta go to Pennsylvania to pick it up. Waymark, Pennsylvania. So, but this is a good website for looking for used equipment. The other one that's on here is QRZ.com. QTH.com is mainly for sale and wanted items. QRZ.com is a good utility, all sort of kind of website here. Okay, it has lots of stuff on here. It has news, it has forums, it has swap meet. So that swap meet is what we want to go to. That's your classified ads up to the top.
Oh, write it down here too.
Actually, you can go right down here too, you can look at the first, I don't know, was it 20 or 10 or
Something like that, yeah.
something like that, ads, you see the pictures of stuff for sale, okay? And if you click on it, you can bring it up and see what it is, as far as this handheld. ID 51A D-Star radio, and there it is. As you can see, this is the V7OI that's selling this, guy's out in British Columbia. And 270 your best offer.
It's not a bad deal.
Well, it's American or Canadian, I don't know.
It's Canadian.
Uh,
So that's Canadian call, eh?
Well, I just,
But may
it's
not
an
be.
American website though, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the question, that next comment down
Oh, yeah,
below.
yeah, click down. Is that 250 Canadian? It is US dollars, there you go.
Well, that's a Canadian call sign.
Yeah, yeah,
That
so,
could be a little misleading.
yeah. But we know it's $250 US for that. So is that a good price? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's,
That's about quarter.
so if we go,
It's about what, 1,000 Canadian now?
well, no, 250,
I'm only kidding.
40%.
It's gone way down.
Yeah. Still 40%,
It's bad.
Tomorrow will be 1,000.
Yeah, it'd be 1,000.
It's like under 70.
So, in here you got more, you get more stuff for sale in here too. And a Canadian website is KWARC, K-W-A-R-C,
W.
yeah, arc.org. This is the Kitchener Waterloo Amateur Radio Club website, and you can see it brings up their main website. And this is what we want here, the KWARC Virtual Swap Shop. Go on there, and you can look at the recent listings in the last 7 days. Or you do the all listings for 30 days if you want. If you do the all listings for 30 days, it's a big list. It's on and on and on. As you can see, this is not as user friendly as the QRZ or QTH. There's no pictures on this one here. It's just type and what's for sale, and they may have a little description of it, and how you get a hold of them. Okay. I think if you click on the person's name, like this V2ZHP, I don't know what that's going to bring up. Anything?
No, it's email, to email them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's to email him. But you can see that he's got his phone number here, and he's in La Prairie, Quebec. And he's selling a Heathkit SB102, old tube HF radio. Okay. And so you can scroll through all that, and you can look at it for different types of radio equipment. All right, so that's new radios and used radios. That's the link to go and look at them. You can also go to Hamfest.
Get our website too.
Oh yeah, sorry. How silly of me, I forgot of our own website here, aarclub.ca. And we have a for sale list growing by the day, I hope.
Yeah, more people.
Home. Where is it? For sale.
Yeah, there's just stuff.
Cushcraft R5 vertical antenna. And, hey, you did a good job in this.
Sure.
Yeah. So there's different stuff for sale on the board. This is all local stuff too, by the way. And, there's a lot of here. Different stuff there. Okay, so I want to talk about Hamfest now. What a Hamfest is, it's a flea market for ham radio stuff. And I got some. We're back on the PowerPoint. Okay, the largest Hamfest in the world is in Dayton, Ohio, and it's held in I think it's in May. This Hamfest is so big that we use stuff that like local local vendors would sell. Local being that I drive to Dayton with a truckload of my gear. I'm going to put a table. I'm going to bring my own table too, by the way, and set the table up in the parking lot of the Hare Arena outdoors. They give you a parking spot. You rent it for the weekend, and you set up there, and you put your little table out, and you sell your radio equipment. The used flea market part is so big, it will take you a day and a half to go through it. Okay, it's, the Hare Arena is probably about 3 station malls, the indoor exhibit of it, to go through. It takes you about a day to go through the day. It's a day and a half more for the flea market outside, because they're all parking spots and there's so much to see. It's just like your eyes swim. Like anything that's had a wire or solder to it is for sale there. You know.
And prices are really good, or can be.
Well, can be very good. Yeah, I've bought a lot of gear from Dayton. I've gone there and, you know, a whole lot of money, come home broke. So, yeah. And been happy about it too. That's the best part. But like I say, anything electronic is for sale there, and anything that's painted green, like as far as military stuff, lots of that there for sale, from rocket launchers to, I don't know where they get this stuff from, but yeah, it's, they had to, back when, you know, I was going religiously every year there, back in the late 80s and early 90s there, they, a couple guys were starting to sell handguns there, and it's no. It's not the place for that. There's gun shows for that. Eh? But yeah, it's batteries, whatever you want. Like back when the laser pointers were had first come out, they were selling them for like big dollars here. You know, they were all the rage down there, but it was very, very inexpensive to pick one up. I think it was like $5 for a laser pointer, and they were all the craze. The thing about the Dayton Hamfest is that you can go there and buy parts. For me now, like I've got HF radios and stuff like that. It's all the little parts, like the little connectors and stuff like that. That if you go and buy them here locally, you'll buy one, you'll spend like $5 on. They sell that stuff by the pound there, you know. So like, you know, like, and or it's take a paper bag and fill it, and you know, like how much is that? You know, it's that kind of a Hamfest. You can find dealers like that where you can buy lots of the little components that would cost you a fortune. You get for very cheap down there. So, and you also get a chance to see all the new radio equipment that's come out. All the major manufacturers are there. This is the largest Hamfest in the world, and they unveil their new radio equipment there, from radios to antennas to amplifiers to whatever's involved with amateur radio is on display there. That's why it takes a day to go through the inside of it, because that's where all the new equipment is. That's where all the manufacturers are. They have every model of radio there with them to show you and to convince you that's what you need to make your life happy, is to buy their radio. So it's a little ways away from here, but people from all over the world go to the Dayton Hamfest. So it's interesting. If you just make it, if you get interested in the ham radio to the point that it becomes a passion in your life, you got to go to Dayton at least once before you die. You know, just to experience it.
If you're thinking about buying a new radio, do the dealers have like significant promo pricing, or is it?
It won't be, well, yes, it will be the dealers. It won't be the manufacturers, because you know they have the deal that the dealer sells the radio, the manufacturer just displays it. But you can get some good deals there. Yeah, they'll have Dayton Hamfest specials there. Yeah. One that's close to us is the Traverse City Hamfest. It's on Valentine's Day. And there's the website for it. It's real easy to find in Traverse City. You just follow the main road as if you were going to outside of Traverse City. Like you go through the downtown part and you keep on going, and like they'll have talking on their local repeater to get there. Traverse City Hamfest will start at 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why. I'm not a morning person, okay? Like, it wasn't my idea to have Hamfest start on a Saturday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, but everyone you'll go to, other than the Dayton Hamvention is 3 days long. This will run from 8 o'clock in the morning. It'll be done by 11. It's only 3 hours. You want to get a deal, you be there at 8 o'clock, okay? Don't think you're going to go there at 10 o'clock and get that radio you thought you were going to find that great deal at Traverse City or at any of the Ontario Hamfests or anywhere. It's the early bird gets the worm. You know, show up early, bring cash, and you may get the bargain. You may get there and find something you weren't really thinking about buying, but you get there, it's a great price, and you go home with something. So it's good.
The other one down here is Ontario Hamfest, and actually that's just the RAC website on, it brings up the local, the Hamfest in Ontario. There's no, unfortunately from where we live, there's nothing really local around here. There's one about every second year in Sudbury.
It's gonna be this year, it's gonna be this fall, I believe.
Is it? Okay. It's not bad. It's, you know, it's only 3 hours away, and it's a fairly good Hamfest. There's some Hamfests that you'll go to, and you know, if you travel a long ways and like there's only like 5 tables set up, it's kind of a big disappointment. I traveled all this way and like there's like, you know, not much equipment there for sale, so it's kind of a disappointment. So you like to go to a Hamfest that there's lots of stuff there you can look at. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to buy anything or all of it, but you know, it's something to look at. And the one in Sudbury is a good deal. It's they usually get a lot of tables there. And it may be because they only do it every second year, but they get people coming there.
Another somewhat smaller one, it's in Newbury, it's usually in the middle of June. A
Yeah.
smaller one, but it's an hour's drive on a Saturday morning. I've been there a couple times. Not the greatest variety. One thing, there's one vendor there that comes, he's a massive amount of tables. Like if you're looking for connectors and the odd things, that some cases it's cost you more for the shipping than it does. There's one big vendor
Yeah.
that sets up there, so it's like an hour's drive on a Saturday morning. That's not too bad. I've been there a couple times.
Yeah. I haven't been at Hamfest, so you know, I couldn't really speak on it.
I didn't catch where that one was.
In Newbury?
Newbury. That's the UP Hamfest, huh? Is it? UP?
It's whatever the new Newbury Club or whatever runs
Yeah.
it. But yeah, it's like I say, it's an hour's drive. It's not a bad drive on a Saturday morning.
Yeah. Just one here for Traverse City, unless you go down the night before, you're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you're there for 8 o'clock. Yeah. So, all right, so that's it for Hamfest. We're on to next one. And here's some just general links for you that of interest is the Radio Amateurs of Canada, which is the national organization for amateur radio, is at this website. You can go in there and look around, anything that you... Okay, all different kinds of information in here to look at, and you've probably been here if you're looking for picking up call signs, stuff like that. But just go in there and just have a look around on it's different stuff you can look at, whatever you get interested in. Another one is the American national organization, the American Radio Relay League. It's a good website to look up. And you know, there's contests that are on the radio, and really this organization here is, these are the people that pump out more information about amateur radio than anyone else does. They're the ones that publish books on how to, you know, build antennas, and they make the ARRL handbook, which talks about every facet of amateur radio, which more or less is the Bible of amateur radio. So it's a good place to go and look around at if you're looking for any information. The quickest way though to find out if you have a question about anything, Google it. You know, chances are you'll find what you're looking for just by Googling it. The other one, I think I put another one on there called EHAM. We already at QRZ.com, but EHAM is a good website. Again, it's got different areas in here to look at, but some of the neat things here is product reviews. This is kind of sometimes interesting here. I think this is the one here where people have bought stuff and they'll, like the MFJ 940 9E. This one right here, second one? No, it's the fourth one down. Right there, yeah. That's a tuner. And if you can scroll up so we can get a picture of it there. Keep going. This is a manual tuner that you would have for HF, okay, for if the antenna that you built, that wire dipole, isn't exactly resonant on the frequency that you're trying to operate, like it's got a high SWR. Get one of these, and you can make that SWR that was high, make it low, down to 1 to 1. And the 949 E antenna tuner is a nice tuner to use because it has a crosshair meter on it. In that, not only does it show you don't have to be flicking back and forth to see how much power is going out and how much is being reflected. It will show you because it's got two needles on it. One going out, one coming back in. So the one going out, you want to go up way high, the one coming back in way low. That's how it works. And you know, just adjustments on it to make that happen. So down below is reviews of it. People that have got this, and they talk about it. You know, talk about the price of it if you're buying it used, how well it works, and stuff like that. It's a good barometer for if you're thinking about buying something. Go here and look up and see if somebody's talked about it. But remember, it's like TripAdvisor, okay? If I book a hotel room, maybe I had a really nice time there, okay? But you go there next time and there's bed bugs there, okay? So like you're gonna write a really bad review about it. Or somebody, you know, tipped you off in the hotel or something like that, you're gonna write a really bad review of it. So when you're reading stuff like this, a good barometer or a good thing to keep in mind is look at the number of good reviews compared to the number of bad reviews. And look at the good and the bad reviews as far as what they're talking about. If the guy just doesn't like MFJ, like the manufacturer, something like that, he could be just ranting or something like that. So it could be a good product and he's just having a bad day and he writes a review that day. So that's pretty well what you've got to use your judgment on for when you look at these. Okay. What else? I think that's it. DX cluster. If one of my pursuits of amateur radio is I like talking to distant stations, people that are really far away. And I think I spoke about this when I was teaching the course here. For me, amateur radio, like I set up a little wire antenna in my backyard there, and just the idea that my signal can go up in the ionosphere and bounce down somewhere on Earth very far away, and I'm talking to somebody in some foreign country is just, you know, it's first of all, it's the I can't get over it. Wow, it's something I built, and you know, I'm talking to this guy, you know, without the internet or telephone line in Australia or something like that, and so it's cool. So before the internet, you would get on the radio frequencies, and you kind of knew just generally like maybe what frequencies would be open. Like 20-meter band is open pretty well all the time. 75 meters, 80 meters opens up at night. Remember the DE layers and stuff like that. So you'd get on there and you'd spin the dial, and you'd listen for stations and stuff like that. And you know, hopefully you'd find that rare DX station, that guy in say Israel that was on frequency. And sometimes they'd have DXpeditions, and they would not announce in advance that they were going to Israel to operate radio. That's kind of a bad example because people live in Israel and they're on there all the time. But say like going to Antarctica, it's not a populated place. There's an expedition going to one of the islands off of Antarctica, and they're going to be arriving about the 20th of January. So they'll make an announcement beforehand. And because it's a big DXpedition going so far away, not only did they make the announcement, they want money from you too, like donations to help make it happen. But anyways, they make the announcement that they're going there. So in the pre-internet days, we subscribed to newspapers that they would send out this stuff monthly. Okay, along comes the internet. What do you know? It's online here now. Okay, and people around the world they hear a station operating, and maybe even themselves, they could be advertising that, hey, I'm on this frequency and I want to talk to DX stations. So they will make announcements. So on this one here, the spotter is Alpha AF6 JC, Alpha Fox 6 Japan Charlie, just reported that on 14.022.5 megahertz, K5 Papa is operating. K5 Papa is the Palmyra and Jarvis Islands. That's a good catch. Palmyra isn't not really on the band's all that much. Palmyra is, Bruce, that's in the South Pacific. I'm pretty sure Palmyra is.
All I know is
down around Australia.
I worked them.
Yeah, yeah. So if you can work them, that's a good catch. I consider this to be the fish finder in amateur radio. Okay, when you go out fishing, you catch fish if you have a fish finder. You catch more fish with a fish finder than if you just go out there and just, I think the fish are here, and throw your line into the water. And back in the pre-internet days, if you didn't get subscribed to that newspaper that used to come once a month, you were taking your rod and just casting out there and hoping. So this way here, you know where the DX is. Doesn't happen all the time. You can still get on a frequency and just say CQ, V3 OTL, and Paul Myron could come back to you. You know, because he was just getting ready to tune up to get on that frequency, and you called CQ. So it happens, but as soon as it happens though, and somebody else hears it, it'll probably be on here, you know, so you be thankful that you just worked them because the rest of the world is about to. So this is a really great website. In here you can share a spot, so this is how you enter the information. These spots here, you type in my call sign, V3OTL, the DX is Kilo 5 Papa, what frequency they were on, and any info. The info is just part in here, like SP event, special events. This one here, they're talking about CQ and no waiting. Guys calling CQ, there's no big pile up of stations trying to work them. That's Bulgaria, so it's easy to talk to those people. So, and then when you press the share button, poof, away it goes. Here you can type in your location. If you were at home on your home computer, once you type that in, it remembers you all the time, okay? That your location would be your grid square, and here in Sault Ste. Marie, we're grid square Echo November 76, so EN76, and there's also 2 letters after that, which divides the grid square down into, what is it, 1/100th of the grid. And I know for sure this one here is Echo 76 Uniform Mike, because I live just down the street, and that's the grid that I'm in. So, and there you go. So if you go up to the top again, Mike.
Okay. Trying to bring it up for you,
Yeah.
the station.
Okay, so if you go over here to spots. Over here, spots.
Over here. Okay.
Okay, when you just, as soon as he's just sitting on there on spots, there's all the radio bands there. So if you were looking for just to see 6 meter contacts, if you click on 50 megahertz, it changes. There's all the stations on 6 meters right now. Okay,
Wow.
and it seems like there's a lot of stations on here, but because of this band is, it's not a worldwide band. Okay, you got to remember that LU5FF, which is Argentina, is reporting on 50.022. That YS1AG, the beacon's on from El Salvador. Okay, but they're not all that far apart. They're maybe like 200 or 300 miles apart. Like El Salvador from here is like, that's a pretty big haul. So you probably wouldn't hear that station. You'd have to, and if we scroll down there a little further, Mike, we would look for an American or Canadian call over here, and I don't see too many of them. In fact, I don't see
There's
any.
an American right there.
Where?
Go down a bit. The other way, Mike.
This way. Yeah,
He's
those are
there,
all-
right there, top of the screen.
W2FUL. No, that's
No, top of the
BK.
screen,
BK's
Second
all,
one.
Oh, K4 TX3.
US.
Okay, and 50.125. You heard only, it didn't work them. It's KK4 DZP.
And then go 2 down, there's another one, CQ.
And that's K4 DZP. He just sent out a spot for himself saying he's at 50.125, sending CQ. So if there's only 2 stations on there, that band is not open. It's dead. There's all VKs on there. It's open in Australia. So that's a good indication that don't even bother going on 6 meters because you're not going to hear anything. Like as far as DX, there might be global stations on there, but no DX stations. So yeah, that's it for this is a fun website. It also for us DXers, it also gives the graph of what the sun's doing. Right now, solar flux index is at 104. A and K are 8 and 3. So it's not the greatest. Okay, but it also tells you what bands are open too. Okay, it's nighttime right now, so our best bet for working any stations is on between 30 meters and 20 meters, where it says good. So yeah, so that's it. Just a couple questions. There's somebody asked about why would I want to get involved in all this when I can pick up I can go on Skype and talk to people. Okay. I've never been on Skype, never been on Facebook, never been in a chat room on way back before there was Skype, Facebook, and all that. We used to have chat rooms on the internet. I never went there because my main interest was on amateur radio. I wanted to talk to people that had the same interest as I did in radio, and for me it was to talk to them in faraway places. And you know, back in the 80s when I got on, the internet wasn't everywhere. Okay, you couldn't get, there was no internet down in Antarctica. There was no satellites in the southern hemisphere. So back in the good old days there, when they were on U.S. weather station, which is at the South Pole, is manned year round. When they wanted to call home, they used amateur radio. They used phone patches to call home. And in between the phone patches being set up, and a phone patch works as far as the radio station in Antarctica. The guy that was operating the radio station, his dad was a ham radio operator. He lived in the western U.S. I think he was in California. He'd tell Dad, okay, the next call is to this phone number. The guy would make a collect call to the people at the phone number, and they would, you know, accept the collect calls because they knew it was one of their family members in Antarctica calling home and telling them it's really friggin' cold down here. So, you know, it was a party when you could listen to another call, but in between the calls, in between they were setting it up, you could work the Antarctica station. He would take calls, and you could work Antarctica, you know, and it was interesting to even to listen to the calls because it's really freaking cold down there, you know. And at that U.S. weather station, which is right, that's Scott and Munson, right at the South Pole. There's 200 people that live down there, you know. Now you can go on the internet and type in Scott and Munson, and you can see videos of what it really is like down there. But at the time, that was their only communications in getting back home. So that was the hook for me to get involved in it. In amateur radio, like it wasn't this past summer, I think it was the summer before, guys out flying a U.S. military transport plane. He's flying from, I forget where he said he was coming on the west coast, but he was going to, I think, New Jersey. He's flying across Lake Michigan. This is on 146.52 megahertz. The guy's got a, I don't know if he had a handheld in the cockpit or what. He's the pilot. They got the thing on autopilot. They might as well be driving a Greyhound bus. Because I've talked to pilots before, like talked to, I think it was a WestJet when they used to come here. They were flying over one night, and I'm driving home from work, and this is on HF, and I talked to the guy, and he says, you put the thing on autopilot, they go out the window, you know, until they get near the airport, and they go. It's the same thing with those U.S. military transports, you know, that the thing's on autopilot, and the only time they have to get really get concerned about flying is like when they're getting close to the airport, when they're getting ready to land. They got to, you know, start taking the controls back over. So they're looking out the window, and this guy here was operating a handheld, or he had some sort of 2-meter setup. I don't know if he's using the radio on the plane or not. And you know, reporting that he's you know, off the coast of he was on the western shore of Lake Michigan, and it took him like about 2 or 3 minutes to get from the west side to the east side. You know, they're flying at 300 miles an hour, and you watch his radio signal. It goes up and then it goes back down again. You know, as he's going along the you know, the line side of the horizon. You know, he's getting back into your horizon, higher in the horizon, so the radio signal comes up. As he gets further away and gets down, sinks down in the horizon, the radio signal gets lower. And I was able to contact that guy. That was really kind of neat, because you think, hey, this guy's flying military transport. So, so it's things like that you know, you talk to these people and you have some really neat contacts. I don't know if you can talk to the International Space Station on the internet, but I know you can talk to them on 2 meters. If you're lucky enough to be listening when they fly by and they're on the air, and you can work them. There's a little bit of a trick to doing it because they don't listen on one frequency, they listen on a range of frequencies, and it's just like rolling the dice. You just pick the frequency you think they might be listening on, and you give your call sign, and they come back, and wow, it's, you know, there they are. You know, most of the time I've heard the International Space Station fly over, they have had school contacts where they'll be on there and they'll be taking questions from school kids, and it's really interesting to listen to them, man, because they've gotten past the how do you go to the bathroom questions, you know, to really some scientific questions, and it's interesting to listen to the astronauts explain them. So, and again, you know, signal comes up, you know, they're in the when the signal gets really high, you know that they're in the peak of the horizon. The signal goes down, you know. And the space station flies over, I don't know, can fly over 4 or 5 times a day. But when they're in the horizon, they're in there for about 3 or 4 minutes and then they're gone, you know, so it's stuff like that that's cool. We just talked about about emergency services. I'm gonna save that for another night. But basically to tell you about amateur radio and where we fit into the emergency operations piece of the puzzle. Back in I think it was the term, one of George Bush's terms, he said one time that America was addicted to oil. He didn't finish the sentence. What he should have said was, America, meaning the United States and Canada, is addicted to oil and electricity. Electricity is our drug, our cocaine, okay, that we depend on for everything that we use. And it's also our Achilles heel. And when the power goes out, the expectation of governments is, and of communications company is, you're on your own for the first 3 days. After that, somebody's going to come and save you, okay? I never did hear who that was going to be, but the thinking is that any major power outage will be restored in 3 days. So, and they have built their networks on that, okay? The only problem is that a lot of our networks, which carry the internet or cell phones, rely on battery systems that last between 12 to 15 hours, okay? After that, they have to have some sort of generator set up on them, okay? Any of the industries in communication don't have enough generators for every little spot that they have communications equipment. So, you know, if the power outage lasts and it's a big outage that's in a big area, if it lasts for any length of time, there's going to be pockets of areas that are not going to have any sort of communication systems. And that's where we will come into play as a secondary service to provide that communication system. Here in the city, we're deployed at the My Smart stores to relay any information. And it's, you know, whatever happens. Hopefully, the public's going to know that, you know, if they have an issue that their phone doesn't work or anything like that, and they need the police, fire, ambulance, they're going to go to My Smart store, and there'll be a radio operator sitting in the parking lot to make that call back to the main station. And beyond that is if the power outage is far and wide enough and it lasts for any period of time, like these networks will start failing. Like somebody asked about the internet. Will the internet fail? Yes, it will. If the internet is fed by power, as far as some piece of communication equipment, electronic equipment is driving that internet and make it work. And if it's in that grid there, that it's going to have a generator that's hopefully pumping power into it. And as long as that generator is fed with fuel, it's going to keep operating. But at some point, it may not. You know, one of the biggest problems that these industries have, the cell phone people. In large metropolitan areas have put their cell phone repeaters on the top of apartment buildings. Really hard to get a generator up there to the top of to the 23rd floor of an apartment building, okay? They don't plan on putting generators up there when they put the cell phone site up there. First of all, it's expensive to get it up there. You know, as far as to put a generator up there, and then you got to feed it, like if it starts operating. So they depend on batteries, okay? Again, the thinking is that within a certain number of hours, the power's going to be back on. Okay. So that's the Achilles heel, and that's where we are. You know, we had a power outage, a rolling power outage across North America that happened in, when was that? Early 2000s. Yeah.
10 years ago.
Yeah, and they have all said, once in a lifetime thing is never going to happen again.
It's going to.
Okay, you know. Back, when was it, in the 90s? They had the ice storm in Eastern Ontario, Quebec. I remember watching NBC News with the television reporter standing in downtown Montreal, and it's pitch black for as far as you can see. And it was like the second or third night in a row. And they didn't know when they were getting the power back on. And it was in the wintertime. So, and it was because of the weather that they had this year, which I just watched the television report the other night, says this is the identical weather pattern that we had from back then, you know, and they said the chances of an ice storm happening again are good. So can it happen again? We'll Okay, not everybody go running out of this room and yelling and screaming. Who knows? But
Or the other thing is like, remember once or twice, the contractor severed the main fiber optic cable connecting us to the
Yeah.
Sudbury. So we're isolated for a
Isolated.
period of time,
Yeah.
right? How many times?
it can happen, you know, and it can be happen from anything, you know. And are we prepared?
This helps
I
us
don't
be
know.
better prepared anyway.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
So, anyways, that's my spiel on emergency preparedness. Yeah, we have a lot of work to do, like as far as being an amateur radio club and amateur radio operators, as far as what we can do and where we should be at. You know, there's still lots of work to do on that. You know, like we don't have full backup for our repeater system. But we're applying for a grant and hopefully we'll get it. And we'll be able to put some of those pieces together in place that we can set up a station. We have a station right now at the Emergency Operations Center on Old Garden River Road. Okay, so we're good to go there, but we can do more to build on that. And the thing about being there is that's one of the few places that will go off the grid. It'll be one of the last places to go off because they're fed by fiber optic cable, and and they have a built-in generator there that it's either natural gas or they've got a big gas tank underneath the ground that'll run the generator. So it'll go for a long period of time. So that will be like a natural place for us to go to, at least to get the infrastructure in, to get our part of the service working for it.
So Brent, about Bell Telephone, if the power goes, Bell is gone?
No, it's not gone.
No?
The main office. Okay, I can say these things. I know we're on TV. Okay, I'm retiring in 6 months, so I think I'm pretty safe to say this.
Oh, sorry.
No, they can operate for it's about 3 days. They have underground fuel system there,
Okay.
and a part of the emergency preparedness plan is that's one of the key places that they will get. They will keep that place up and operational.
Okay.
Okay, it's part of the disaster plan that the fuel that's down the fuel tanks down on Black Dirt Road.
Yeah.
They'll make sure that the fuel truck goes by there, as well as with Shaw or any of those other places.
Okay.
It's all the outlying areas, okay, like out in the west end. Say like there's a telephone office out in the west end of the city. Actually, there's several of them out there. Okay, that's where they haul generators to. Okay, and the idea has been if it's a localized event, you deploy generators from all over the province in there.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's nobody plans for having a Ontario-wide or
Eastern
seaboard-wide event happening for any length of time. And that's where the problems will run into. And it gets worse if it's in the middle of the winter time.
Yeah.
Soon the power goes out. How many here have a backup generator in their house? Not me. Well, I have a generator in the garage. I guess I'd be scrambling scrambling to get everything going. Okay, or as far as backup water and stuff like that.
Does the water stop?
No, the water. Well, if the house gets cold, the water's going to stop because pipes are going to freeze.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
You wanna have like propane heaters, really, these are the things,
Yeah.
100 gallons of water.
Yeah, so, and that's some of the things as members of the emergency services that we need to start thinking about it. And, and as we get more people involved in this, that we get more people to, take the torch and run with that and on those things and educate us and what we need to have to be prepared for it and actually get us motivated to go and get that stuff ready. Like to have that, I think somebody called it a go bag, but a go bag for radio equipment, also a go bag for supplies. You've also got to think about your loved ones when you leave to go and help out at the Emergency Operations Center, that they're going to be okay while you're gone too. So.